It's all about relationships, embedding relational, trauma-sensitive approaches in education.
In partnership, Barnardo Scotland and Public Health Scotland asked those working in education what makes a difference to children and young people's mental health and wellbeing. We heard lots of wonderful insights, and it is clear from our conversations there is an overwhelming desire to nurture all children and young people's mental health and wellbeing. We heard the importance of being aware of the impact of adversity, trauma, poverty, and the many other factors that can make life tough for children. However, there was an appreciation that all children and young people's mental health must be nourished and nurtured. We believe school staff are experts in doing this and have the power to create and foster a culture of warmth, nurture, kindness and positive relationships within their school environments. Nurture, respect, compassion, safety and rights are all key components of trauma-sensitive and relational practice and are vitally important in how we respond to and are with our children and young people. In this film, we're not presenting anything new. Instead, we're pulling together lots of words, terms and ideas and asking the question, what's relational practice all about? And what does that mean for me in my practice? We believe to be trauma-informed is to focus on relationships, to be nurturing, to be compassionate, to be rights-respecting, to acknowledge the impact of adversity and trauma, to build resilience and to care deeply about children and young people's mental health and wellbeing. These are the foundations to building good quality relationships. So what does make a difference to children and young people's mental health and wellbeing? We believe it's relationships which are at the heart of creating environments which support good mental health and wellbeing for our children and young people. We feel it's time to celebrate the positive relational work shared by colleagues making a difference to children and young people across Scotland.
We've become increasingly interested in children and young people's mental health and wellbeing in education settings. Time and time again, we heard actions and approaches being described as simple things. Things like consistently providing a warm welcome when they arrive at school, always using their names, using compassionate language, being really interested and inquisitive in their lives and how they're doing. So it was apparent that what was being described was wonderful examples of relationally informed, trauma-sensitive practices. The stuff that helps children feel included, safe, nurtured, respected. So while it might feel simple to people, it might look simple on the surface, actually we know that quality relationships change lives.
Chapter 1. Building strong relationships. Trauma-informed and trauma-responsive systems acknowledge that every interaction is an intervention. Dr. Karen Treisman.
We don't know who might need that extra bit of kindness towards them. What's important is that everybody coming into our school feels welcomed, feels included, feels loved. Being trauma sensitive doesn't mean looking out for trauma in every child. Being trauma sensitive is about having wonderful relationships with everyone in our school community.
Trauma sensitive is in the first instance about understanding how someone feels, but it's also about enabling people to discuss how they feel and hopefully to promote change in how they deal with how they feel. In terms of education in particular, trauma sensitive for me draws in aspects of children's rights, it draws in the nurture principles. It's actually just being this nurturing, rights-based, central approach to everything. It's not about specific interventions, it's just about an approach about who you are.
Teachers listen to you. Whatever you say, they care. If a teacher has a different opinion, they still listen to you.
They will always smile at you and say hi to you. They are genuinely interested.
I know myself, even as a member of staff, if a pupil says to me, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Corrington," it brightens up my day. I feel much better. I feel included and I feel valued. And it's the same, it's reciprocal. If I do that for a pupil, then they feel that I want them here. And that's true, I do want them in the school.
You know, smile, engage, listen to them, take an interest in them. When things aren't going well, stay calm for them.
She'll come over, she'll say what's wrong, you can tell her.
If I'm annoyed, I'll usually go down, sit and the lunch hall for a wee bit. She'll come down and she'll get me, and then we'll go into her room, have a talk, what's been going on.
She just asked me how you doing and all that.
And is that important?
Aye.
Why is it important?
Because you didn't want to come to school all miserable and angry. Whenever I always come to school, but I used to never go to my classes.
What's changed about you since you started coming?
I'm always at school, I'm always in here, and I'm trying to stay out of trouble.
We don't need to be a therapist to be therapeutic and understand when someone else is hurting or when they're struggling. So it doesn't need to be complex language. It looks to me like you're having a tough time just now. Do we need to have a discussion later? What do you need from me at this moment? Some simple things just about human connection and caring.
If you have any problems at home, you can also talk to them about that. It's just the way they are.
Chapter 2. Reframing and modelling behaviour. See a child differently and you'll see a different child. Dr. Stuart Shanker.
Showing the children positive interactions with other adults is very, very important, and it is maybe a skill that we can't assume that our children are learning, that we have to model and teach them as well.
How I respond to the behaviour is about me modelling what someone should do in that instance, and if all that child or adult has seen is something that's not helpful when they present with this behaviour, then it's not going to make any difference to them, it's not going to help.
It's not even choice. Sometimes they've been forced into a particular way of behaving because they are so distressed that they find it difficult to act in any other way. And I think now that we've reframed the way in which we look at things and how we use certain terms, actually it's changed the whole culture. People are more understanding, more caring, and as a result the behaviour here has changed drastically. It's so much better.
With staff, conversations like, I can't teach this child, exclude this child, take this child out of my class, we don't get them so much anymore. In fact, we very seldom get them, and that's to do with staff having a greater understanding, I think, of the circumstances these young people bring. You know, I've been in the profession for 34 years. I haven't always thought like that. It's taken me a long time to come to this realisation that the kinds of things that we are talking about now and trying to implement now in the school are absolutely crucial. They are all our young people, and it is up to us to change and to work differently and to understand better so that we can support every young person.
We're trying to build children for the future. We're trying to make a difference over that long time. So we need to be prepared that some of the things we're doing will take that time, such as developing empathy, such as showing by how we behave what we expect them to do. Schools may have values. We expect respect. You're going to need to explain that to children. What does that mean? We expect good listening. What does that look like? Tell them what you do want, not what you don't want. So you have to have the expectations. You also need to have the consistency. That one person or an adult is going to say the same as the next adult. It creates that sense of safety.
Chapter 3. Creating a safe environment and a positive culture. When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. Alexander Denhire.
What we felt and saw for ourselves was going into schools who really pride themselves on good quality relationships. It's a culture, it's an ethos, it's felt across the whole school environment.
The values have been here since ages and ages ago. When everybody's new to the school, through time they learn what they are and why we have them.
We took the conscious decision to change and we organised it into 3 strands or 3 different aspects of the work. The first of these was changing the provision, which refers to the curriculum and the support mechanisms that are in place for young people. The second of these was about changing the capacity, which was about upskilling their own staff, enhancing their understanding of the difficulties that young people face and of trauma-informed practice. The last part of the change was about changing the mindset. I think the ethos is completely different. You can see it, you can feel it, you listen to feedback that you get from pupils and from staff. It's, I think, a happier, I think there's a nurturing feel to it, I think there's a supportive feel to it. It's just a much calmer place.
If we're looking at trauma-sensitive approaches, there are layers, and one of the very first layers is about a safe environment, so that children know they've got those base needs met, and a supportive environment, so they know where to go if something does upset them.
We were looking at safe breakout spaces for the children who were maybe needing a little time out from class. So they now have some time out cards, and we have safe spaces that you'll see as you wander around the school for them to go to with a worry monster, so that they can put worries into the worry monster's mouth, or some calm colouring.
Having the facility where they can take themselves out of the situation for a little time. They all have safe spaces that they know what they can do if things are going that way. Then that in itself, which is very simple, it makes a big difference to them.
You'll notice as you wander around the school as well that we've looked at children's rights, and that's been very much a focus for us. The minions around the school will show you the children's rights, which we visit at assembly, revisit during curriculum time as well, because it's part of the health and wellbeing curriculum.
Pupils are becoming more aware about what their rights are, and I think they are ready to kind of talk about that and say, well, actually, I do have a right to feel safe. I do have a right to be included. And what I particularly like about Falkirk High at the moment is we're looking at those rights and we're trying to fit it into what's suitable for each individual. Because although there's the overarching, you do have a right to these things, feeling safe, healthy, achieving, so on, it's how we do that that's important.
We do a sort of daily check-in just to catch up and give them that time to chat and express how they're feeling. We'll look at different emotions and help them understand the impact the emotions have on your body and that they do change from day to day. From a teaching perspective, you're very much driven by the curriculum and making sure you're getting through all your coursework and assessments and whatnot. But in here, it's kind of almost like taking a step back and going back to those core foundation skills that maybe our young people haven't experienced as they've been grown up.
I like how the staff are really friendly, and I wouldn't like to go to another school.
We all look through our eyes in a different way because we've had different experiences, and how I might address something is very different from how a pupil would. And a lot of the time it's about being able to self-regulate, so these pupils don't necessarily know, actually I'm really angry and agitated, I'll just take a moment and breathe. They don't know that that's something that they need to do in order to slow their heart rate, calm down.
It really is the absolute simplest of things that we do, and it's something that's very difficult to measure, but it's in our interactions with each other. It's in smiling, it's in being welcoming, it's in giving children hugs. All the small things add up. It's recognising each person as an individual. So it has to involve everyone, not just a whole school approach, it has to be a community approach.
Chapter 4. Supporting staff health and wellbeing. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Staff wellbeing is vitally important. We know that to give care you've got to look after yourself and care for yourself and care for the other caregivers who are around you.
Supporting those young people and trying to get them to fulfil their potential is a tough job, and you need great personal resilience to be able to deal with that. So it's an obvious one really. If our staff are not in a place in terms of their own health and well-being, their own resilience, their own self-esteem, all of that, if they're not in a good place with regard to that, how can they adequately support or appropriately support highly vulnerable young people?
It's a really open environment here. I never ever think twice about saying how I'm feeling, and I think creating that culture and that kind of ethos where you'll not be judged on, it's not a reflection on your ability as a teacher. This is life, you know, we all have ups and downs. It's okay to say, I've had a bad day, and just be really open with how you're feeling.
I have to be mindful of my staff's health and well-being, so that has involved organising different training for them, looking at their own mindfulness, looking at coping with their own anxieties. And I suppose it's about the wee things that you do as well. It's maybe about putting a chocolate bar on the desk with a wee positive message. Grown-ups like compliments just as much as the young people.
Staff health and wellbeing is fundamentally important to this. Before you can have a safe environment for children, before you can create that support for them, before you can teach them the skills for the future, staff need to feel safe and supported, and they need to feel like they have the skills. So it's about leadership, being aware that staff perhaps need emotional check-ins, staff need time.
We have introduced 4 staff wellbeing sessions. Now they are not extras, they are in place of what would have previously been a meeting about curriculum or a meeting about whatever agenda we had on the go at the time. So we are hoping that these changes will have a positive impact on staff health and wellbeing, but also the morale and the ethos in the school.
We would like people to think about the relationships they have with the children they work with and what could they do to increase the quality of those relationships, or what are they already doing that is great and that they should really celebrate and share that with their colleagues. We see this as a whole school approach, as a whole system approach. We would like to see a shift, and I think it's about taking a bit of time, a little bit of time to reflect and to think about the relationships they have with the children they work with, the adults they work with, and every day to just remind themselves of the importance of relationships in terms of helping children achieve their potential and also helping themselves to feel good about the work that they do.